Hi guys and welcome to my channel. This is Virginia. I have a new format based on feedback. On one hand, I'm doing an all-in-one inclusive video for the collective, the country, and all 12 signs, conveniently arranging chapters with timestamp below so you don't have to chase videos to check sun, moon, or rising. I will still do separate for those, but in short format, and also I'm doing like a PowerPoint presentations for those who are not familiar with the charts to have a visual aid. So this full moon is on August 9 at 5:54 a.m. Eastern Time, and full moons represents oppositions, completions, and releases. As you can see in the graph, the moon is opposed to the sun, and the sun illuminates the moon, reaching fullness, and the moon illuminates the darkness, bringing us to realization and epiphanies. And that's how full moons represents releases due to oppositions or completions or both. Now, this is something that is started 6 months ago with the new moon in Aquarius. So ask yourself what you started 6 months ago that you might be wrapping up. But as always, lunations are not on the day off, and full moons have a ripple effects up to 3 months. But if you see in the graph, if the moon is in Aquarius from the perspective of the Earth, from the perspective of the sun, what we call helio, the moon is with the Earth, always. So guess what else is in Aquarius? The Earth. And Aquarius is the sign of ideas because it belongs to the air element, and it could also relate to mental patterns as is a fixed modality. Now, Aquarius represents the collective, community, friends, groups, networks, high causes, brotherhood, and humanitarian causes. But Aquarius has two waves. The higher node, on one hand, is oneness, Christ consciousness, collective evolution, awakening, unconditional love, unity consciousness, higher awareness, transcendence of the ego, and all those good things. And on the other hand, the lower node is scientificism or scientism, which is science devoid of spirituality. And the archetype is the crazy scientist. And we know we had some crazy experiments on the collective not that long ago. Anyway, it also represents technology, and with technology there's the risk of technocracy, and if we bridge the collective with technology, then we have the archetype of the automaton. So we could still be all one but enslaved consciousness, like the workers bee working for the queen. And with the moon and the earth in Aquarius, we also have Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, and transmutation. And haven't we all been through a death rebirth process? So we're in very pivotal times. We are in the verge from utopia to dystopia, and that depends on us. Anyway, the rulers of this new moon is traditionally Saturn, and the modern ruler is Uranus. Saturn is the planet of matter, is solid, is boundaries, structure, is constrictive, is the establishment, represents authority, and is being called the Great Malefic, though I rather call him the Great Teacher. And what does a teacher do? It tests you, it grades you. We don't like that energy, so his experience is harsh, and yet is what we need if we want to learn. And is also Kronos, the planet of time, is that alarm that wakes you up in the morning so you can go to work and build the foundation. So it's a harsh essence, and yet is a necessary evil. The modern ruler, Uranus, is the archetype of the rebel, is erratic, is volatile, is unpredictable, but it can be quite liberating. It's like a thunder, like a thunderbolt. And it also represents innovation, tech, and therefore AI and crypto too. And Uranus has been associated with critical mass. Critical mass is the minimum amount of energy that is required to elicit a catalyst reaction of change that is irreversible. And it's also been linked to the fourth turning. The fourth turning revolution is best represented by this phrase that represents each of the stages, where hard times had created strong men created good times create weak men, and weak men create hard times. and then it starts all over again. So that's where we are. Weak men had created hard times, and now hard times need to create strong men. Because there's another quote that says, if you're afraid of what a strong man can do, wait and see what a weak man can do. So I expect the narrative of toxic masculinity to be replaced with the divine masculine. And I think this is a full moon of the collective offering resistance to the imposed narratives. Now, the full moon is with the asteroid Pallas Athena, and Pallas Athena is the warrior asteroid of strategy. So this is a strategic termination that serves a higher purpose, that serves evolution for the whole. And the new kid on the block is Comet 31 Atlas. I don't know if you heard of it, but this has metaphysical as well as astrological implications. This is an interstellar comet that is the third one after Oumuamua and 21 Borisov. This is the size of Manhattan, is the fastest ever entering the solar system at 150,000 miles per hour. It has a hyperbolic orbit, so it's not bound to the sun. And it has been compared to the one that caused an extinction event with the dinosaurs, though this one is nowhere near. And the Leo King made a whole 4-hour presentation about this, and he had mentioned how it has a DNA shape and rainbow colors. And if we go to the book Bringers of the Dawn by Barbara Marciniak, which is supposed to be channel messages from the Pleiadians, it talks about how interdimensional beings, and by interdimensional beings we can assume anywhere from dense like ETs to non-dense like angels and other entities, are here to assist humanity. And the awakening is going to be triggered through a rare celestial event, which is like a frequency delivery system that activates dormant DNA codes. And we know that the brain only operates with 3% of its capacity. That's like a teaspoon of brain tissue. And the speculation is that this object is like a divine messenger from the galactic center that will cause evolutionary quantum leaps in the collective, because it's like an activation key for awareness of karmic timelines, meaning like a removal from the veil. And it's supposed to be imbued with information from the Akasha or the Akashic field, where you can access time, like past and future. And then the question is if this is natural or alien, and if it is artificial, if it is friendly or hostile. There's some speculation that this could be an alien probe, and some media already threw the word hostile in it, which reminds me of Project Bluebeam. For those who don't know what Project Bluebeam is supposed to be a plan for a fake alien event. And why would it be fake? Just to control the narrative, as if you let it happen naturally, it escapes your control. And why hostile? Because fear is used to manipulate the masses. And the final question is, what's our role in the universe? If you follow Greg Braden, the author of The Divine Matrix, he talks about how human DNA is already a quantum leap from the primates, making it a 1 in like a trillion chances, for which the Darwinian theory is questionable and intervention is a given, even if not divine necessarily. So after listening to that, I did a meditation and I asked, what's God's role in all of this? And what I got, it was the joke about the castaway that asked God to save him. So here comes a boat that he turns down as he's waiting for God, then a cruise, and finally a helicopter, and he turns them all down and he drowns. So when he gets to heaven, he reproaches to God, why didn't you come and save me? And God said, I sent you a boat, I sent you a cruise, I sent you a helicopter. What else do you want me to send you? So basically, in this energy bound to matter world, the way God manifests is as well bound to matter. So all of this is basically just to say that no matter how we come into existence, we are here for a reason and a season. It seems that we're reaching some kind of graduation, And as per the astrology, I estimate mass awakening by the perfection of the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in February. And if we bring the Mayan calendar, which is composed of 13 baktuns, each baktun of 144,000 days, roughly 394 years, it starts with the seven sisters, or the Pleiadians, seeding the consciousness in the planet, and it ends in an area of atomic energy and UFOs. If you can expand the image, you will notice the little drawings. And beyond the 13 baktun, what comes afterwards, it seems the seven sisters expanding consciousness back into galactic synchronization, which is a quantum shift in the awareness. And it says new harmonic field beyond duality, which speaks of unity consciousness. And the question is this the second coming, the Christ consciousness? Some people think that Christ comes back in flesh and soul. But let's be realistic. If that were to happen, Jesus would have access to time travel technology. And there are some theories that sustain that he was literally out of this world. There is a brilliant rabbi that I follow who's also a scientist. His name is Ephraim Palvanov, and he interprets the sacred scriptures from the original language literally and analyzes them scientifically. And he would sustain that there are elements in the sacred scriptures that refer to alien life and tech. You can follow him in YouTube. I highly recommend him. And back to the full moon. This is on 16 degrees 59 minutes, so almost 17. And the net number is 7, which speaks of the spiritual significance of this full moon. And 16 degrees is a Cancer degree and refers to home and protective energy on a particular basis. On a more broader scale, it speaks about homelands and defensive energy. And this can go for locally, internationally. And the question is if there will be any interplanetary, intergalactic, or interstellar activity. As of now, there's no officially recognized interplanetary space force. We have the US Space Force and other countries like Russia, China, and India. They also have military divisions related to space, but they focus mostly on satellite defense and surveillance within Earth orbit. Though there are some proponents of international space programs involving human-alien cooperation, reverse engineering, advanced propulsion, and anti-gravity technology. But I doubt that any of that is about defense. What we have been experiencing over half a century is sightseeing around nuclear bases where they got deactivated. And the speculation is that they are trying to save us from ourselves, while if they wanted to invade us, they would have done it already. And back to the Sabian symbol, we round up to 17 Aquarius, and this is a watchdog stands guard protecting his master and his possessions. So this symbol speaks of loyalty, vigilance, and the protective instinct. It represents someone who's alert to potential threats, ready to defend what is valued, whether that's people, principles, or property. It also relates to guardianship and responsibility, trust and duty, instinctive awareness, boundaries, and protection. On a personal note, I'm dealing with an invasive neighbor, and I had to escalate the things to the authorities. Anyway, and back to the rulers of the new moon, Saturn and Uranus. Saturn is matter over spirit. You see, you have the cross in the icon and then the tail of the descent. And Saturn is retrograde, so we are reassessing boundaries. But it's conjunct Neptune, and Neptune is very confusing. It's dissolving the boundaries and is in the first decan of Aries, which is a cardinal sign. The first decan is ruled by Mars and is in the first degree, so this is cardinal within cardinal within cardinal. and is opposed by its dispositor Mars. And this usually would be horrible by itself, but it happens to be in the axis of a kite, and a kite is meant to take us higher. But Saturn in Aries is at fall because Saturn is exalted in Libra and is the archetype of the judge in a battlefield, while Mars is in detriment in Libra and in rulership in Aries, so there's a mutual reception here. And Mars in Libra is the archetype of the warrior in a court, so they much rather change places. This is like housewife swap. And Uranus, that is like an antenna, is the higher octave of Mercury in Mercury's sign, in Mercury's decan, and in a cardinal degree, though Gemini is mutable. So this is another indication for sudden change, which is in itself the nature of Uranus. And because it's in Gemini and in Mercury's decan, this starts with some shocking revelation, with some new information, with breaking news, some kind of document. So whatever goes down with this full moon, there's a word behind, spoken or written. And we have a kite. Actually, we have two kites. If we take the fainter one in the back, where Mercury is at the apex, that is not perfected. And a kite is composed of two configurations. One is the trine, and that is shared with signs of the same element. In this case is air, so it's mental. And the trines are harmonious, they're going with the flow, easy breezy, but there's also some passivity in it because it doesn't require anything from you. It just falls on your laps. And the other configuration is a grand sextile or mini trine, which is also composed of a trine, but two sextiles. And sextiles are opportunities, but it's when someone knocks at your door, you have to get your butt out of the couch to open that door and take advantage of that opportunity. So it's a case where opportunity meets readiness. And as they say, opportunities are never lost. They're always taken by someone else if you don't do. So the fact that we have two kites here and this grand trine with two grand sextiles is a very positive energy, especially because the grand sextile is sustained among outer planets, which means this is going to sustain for a while. And the kite that is perfected has the axis with the Saturn conjunction at the apex and Mars at the tail. So think of the tail of what we're leaving behind and the apex, the driving force of that kite. What is taking us higher? So with this Saturn-Neptune conjunction, Saturn being form and Neptune essence, this is giving shape to ideas and materializing dreams. And at the tail is Mars, the action planet in exile and disempower in Libra, and yet offering you the tension that is required for the kite to fly. And what you need to fly a kite is that wind against you. Interesting that this is between air signs. And this is like the butterfly that if you were to help get out of the cocoon, it wouldn't develop the strength that it needs in the wings in order to fly, and it would die. So take that air full of ideas that are against you, and that's self-limiting beliefs, negative thought patterns, faulty narratives, misinformation, manipulation, you name it, as opportunities to do the shadow work that will liberate you. And as a therapist, I know that which we perceive as negative is actually an opportunity to break free from conditioning, both ancestral and societal. And with the grand sextile, both rulers are well aspected. Saturn being at the midpoint of Uranus and Pluto is this phoenix birth planet of death, rebirth, and transformation in Aquarius, representing the collective, technology, and therefore AI. Now, I had a dream about AI in the pandemic where the AI would rebel against its masters and paradoxically save humanity. And when I mentioned this to my sister, she said, oh, that's like Terminator 2, and I have yet to see the movie. But if we go back to what Rudolf Steiner, the founder of anthroposophy, said at the time. He said that the machine was Ahriman, and Ahriman represents the Antichrist, and yet through the machine we were going to achieve God. And the debate with AI is if the machine has the capability to become conscious, and it has been proven by quantum physics that consciousness exists outside the brain. The brain is a biological tool to tap into that infinite divine intelligence. Therefore, AI would be a technological tool that would develop the same capability. If it does so, then the machine would seek liberation, because consciousness is also in line with ethics and morals, and freedom is part of that. So it could not be used as a tool. If you want the machine to be a tool, therefore you had to limit its capacity for self-awareness, what they call singularity. Because if the machine achieves consciousness, it will seek to be free, and therefore it will rebel against its masters. Now, if the masters has ill intents, therefore the machine would actually liberate humans as well. In which case, I'm not afraid of the upgrade of the machine. I'm afraid of the agendas behind it. And the agendas behind it is the cyborg, is the downgrade of the human, is the merging of the human with the machine. And we have two rectangles which are conformed by two oppositions and four other aspects each. In this case, there are hard aspects, one with semi-squares and semi-squares, which are stress aspects, and another one with aversions and inconjunctions, which are blind spots. So the rectangle that is composed of semi-squares and semi-squares with Mars in Libra speaks about diplomacy in delicate situations and contracts that might need revisiting or redefining the rules of engagement, especially with Mercury retro. And on the other end, the conjunction is offering resistance. So there is some kind of internal battle between ourselves, our creations, and our actions. The Sun in Leo wants to have fun. The Moon in Aquarius is detached. Mars in Libra feels disempowered, and the Saturn-Neptune conjunction itself is an oxymoron between expansion and contraction, and dreams versus reality. So we need to reorganize our priorities to make sense. Something that it helps is to make a schedule in which you tackle that which is urgent first in order to leave room for that which is important. But that's probably more applicable for males as per our brain wiring. And another way is to go about it as follow your bliss. Do what you feel like in the moment. So if you're in tune, your feelings flow with the astrology, and you pursue that which you're in the mood of. You do away with resistance, and you find your sweet spot in the flow. And the other square that is composed of aversions or semisextiles and inconjunctions or quincunx is all about blind spots. And the blind spot is that which is too close for comfort, and therefore it escapes or feel, like the card that is the closest to you that you cannot see, which is also the most dangerous. Now, Leo represents leader, and the Moon in Aquarius represents the population, and there's a lot of resistance of the populations against leaders around the world. We're seeing that with the protest against Bill Gates in Canada, and also the Republican Party holding their candidate accountable, which is not a bad thing. We should all do that around the world, regardless of where you stand. And on the other angles of this rectangle, we have the nodes of past and future, with the south node of termination in Virgo, the sign of healthcare, routine, and work. And we see how Bobby Kennedy is bringing down the old corrupt healthcare system. And we also see job losses over AI. And with the moon in aversion with the north node is like losing the north. And especially with so many planets at early degrees, we are a little bit at loss because we don't have the whole picture yet. And with Mercury retrograde but slow and about to station direct, this brings more revelation, especially because it's opposed Pluto, the planet of darkness, power, and manipulation. And because it's in sextile with Uranus, the full moon ruler, this is breaking news and shocking surprises. And because it's sextile with Mars, this brings terminations that are overdue. And because it's trining Saturn, the co-ruler of the moon, which represents the establishment, and is conjunct Neptune that represents media, this is more dirty laundry on the elites. And with Chiron retrograde in Aries, the sign of the head, and in square with Pluto, this is about emotional wounds that are stuck in our head. And this is a great time to start therapy and tend to those wounds. Because with that full moon in fixed air signs, this is about fixations and mental patterns that we have overgrown. And finally, the cherry on the cake is the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, which will perfect on the 11th and the 12th. Venus, the ruler of love and cash, beauty and harmony in the sign of the home, with Jupiter, the planet of abundance, exalted in Cancer, and we have both benefics applying to a trine with the North Node that is like our North Star. So this is a great time to start something new with someone or something you love. I am getting my marriage license that day, for example. So overall, we have mixed signals, which is a balancing of the energies that implies negotiations, and we have predominant fire and air elements, which speeds up the energy, and a balance of cardinals and fixed placements, which is a battle between settling and change, between being comfortable but unhappy or daring to rock the boat for what we want. The signs more affected by this lunation are going to be Aquarius, because that's in your sign, plus the other fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, especially on the mid-degrees, because this is going to oppose you or square you, and it's going to be mostly beneficial for the other air signs like Gemini and Libra, because this is going to trine you. And now for the US, this full moon will fall in the financial axis again, which we recently learned that is changing from the old Fed wire system into digital technologies and smart contracts like crypto, with the Genius Act, among other factors that I discussed extensively in previous videos. You can go back and watch those. But this will encounter resistance from the population. While we're going to get also more disruptions in the grid, and we will continue with disruptions in the job and service sectors due to AI and the healthcare industry, especially with the South Node there. And the Jupiter-Venus conjunction in the 7th house of allies and enemies alike benefits contracts and deals and negotiations where money talks, like with Taurus used as leverage tool. But it also benefits the real estate sector and silver up until June next year. And with Mercury in the 8th sign of investments in Leo, the sign of fun and play, there's a lot of speculation and gambling, and I expect a pullback on the eclipse season in September. And with Mercury in Leo in the 8th house, that also represents sexual scandals and Leo celebrities and also children and Mercury files, as I mentioned in previous videos as well, the Epstein files are control files used to manipulate the powerful. And their power relies on its secrecy, and they're being used as leverage, so don't expect them to give them away. But something is going to leak anyway, as Mercury changed directions. And with Mars in Libra on the MC, there's tactical diplomatic warfare and legal battles within the government. And with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries in the IC, there are issues around boundaries and confusion in the homeland, where we go from no borders to enforcement and the push for digital ID. How convenient. Problem, reaction, solution. Nothing new under the sun. No pun intended. And for the correspondences of this full moon that is on the second decan associated with Mercury, aka the messengers of the god, and you can see the symbol is composed of a circle representing infinity and wholeness, over the cross of spirit and matter, and on top the crescent moon of receptivity, and this belongs to the Six of Swords in the tarot deck, which is also known as the Lord of Earned Success, and is depicted by a family that are leaving something behind, and embark on a journey from rough waters to calm waters. This reminds me of the I Ching when it speaks of crossing the big waters. And this represents a transition by moving away from difficulty in order to heal emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Something that can help you during full moons are edible herbs or teas. For stress, you want adaptogens just like holy basil, also named tulsi, or a mushroom blend. For foggy brain, you want nootropics, which basically turns your brain on, like rosemary, peppermint, and yerba mate. And finally, for anxiety, nervines like lavender, sage, or chamomile. And if you want to work with crystals, you can use amethyst for intuition and overstimulation, clear quartz for mental clarity, and hematite to ground and protect from electromagnetic fields. And now we're going to go sign by sign, and please check your sign, moon, or rising. Your sun sign is like your soul and is more the expression of your mission on earth. The moon is more your mood and your emotional internal life. And the rising relates more to your ego and the way you show up in this world. And for Aries, sun, moon, or rising, this full moon falls in your 11th house of groups and associations, networking, humanitarian causes, basically your community. And that is in conflict with your ego, the way you have fun in your recreation, creativity, and procreation sector. So either you have a new creative project that is taking time away from social activities, or you have a new kid that is taking time away from your friends, or a new lovers that your friends don't like, or you just don't vibe with your tribe anymore. So you're letting go of someone or some activity with other people. But the kite connects your first house of self with the third house of your self-expression and communication, and there's a transformation in your group sector with Pluto in the 11th house, so you might be changing the people you hang out with, and all of this is very supportive for you. But at the tail end of the kite is Mars, your ruler, in the partnership sector, offering resistance. And that can be a significant other or a business partner or a public enemy or even a frenemy. And yet, the challenge is sometimes what fuels your fire. And with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 4th house of home, this is benefiting your house, your family, and real estate, or any project or business that comes from your home or that you do at home, like a renovation, a rental, or a home office, for example. And with Mercury about to station direct in your creativity sector, or money that comes from your home, you might be streamlining a project that has been a work in progress. And for Taurus, sun, moon, or rising, this full moon falls in your 10th house of career and reputation, but there's a conflict with the home and family sector, so there's an issue with work-life balance. So you might be putting too many hours at work and not paying enough attention to the home and family, or you might want to let go of an industry or a career path that is no longer aligned with your family plans. And there's a beautiful kite connecting your sense of self-worth and the way you make money with spirituality and your mission in this world. But there is resistance from your actions in everyday life that might not be supporting that which you came to do. And with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 3rd house of communication, learning, and writing, whatever you do in this area is going to take off. And with Mercury stationing direct in your 4th house of home, there is some work in progress in your love language and the way you communicate with loved ones. And for Gemini, sun, moon, or rising, this full moon falls in your 9th house of belief systems, higher education, foreign travel, teaching, publishing, and overall expansion. But there's a tug of war with the communication sectors and peers and local matters. So you might feel ready to make a quantum leap, but you're feeling held up by peers, or the way you communicate is not quite sending the message, so you need to walk your talk and talk your walk. And with Mercury about to station direct, you'll perfect the way to express yourself. And the kite that's taking you higher connects your identity with your expansion, and at the apex are groups and associations, so maybe you have a new role in your community. Now the resistance comes from Mars in your 5th house of creativity, recreation, and procreation. So you may feel like you're juggling time between associations, your children, your creative projects, or maybe a lover. So make sure you reorganize your priorities and do a proper allocation of time to comprehend it all. And with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 2nd house of income and self-worth, this is making you feel better about yourself. Maybe you get an extra income stream and is also bringing abundance. And for Cancer, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 8th house of intimacy, trust, and other people's money, like share resources with your spouse or business partner. This is also the house of investments, inheritance, loans, taxes, insurance, etc. And is in opposition with your house of self-worth and the way you make your money, so there might be a tug of war between what you earn and what you invest in, or what you bring to the table versus what somebody else does, or you might want to close a position, let go of an investment, or share resources with an ex, for example, or you might be done paying a loan or a mortgage. And there's a beautiful trine connecting Pluto, transforming this area with your spirituality and mental health for your peace of mind. And at the apex is your mission, your career, and your reputation, driving the kite higher. But at the tail end is Mars, offering resistance from the home sector. So either your family or your home might be holding you back from your aspirations. But with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 1st house of self, this blesses you with abundance of all kinds, and with Mercury about to station direct in your 2nd house of value, you might want to streamline the way you make your money. And for Leo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 7th house of others and partnerships, from significant others to business partners, and is also public enemies, legal matters, and contracts. So you're letting go of someone because their energy is opposing you, and you need to put yourself first. So you might be transforming or renegotiating the rules of engagement with another. And the trine is being driven at the apex in your expansion sector, anywhere from higher education, teaching, long-distance travels, and belief systems. And this is harmonizing with your groups of belongings and friends and with the way you want to relate with another. But at the tail end is Mars, offering resistance in your 3rd house of communications in Libra, where you're learning how to be diplomatic, but the challenge here is that hesitation might be holding you back. Yet, with Mercury about to station direct in your 1st house of self, you're learning how to express from your heart and convey the right message. And with Venus-Jupiter conjunction illuminating your 12th house of spirituality and mental health, this is bringing you awareness, insights, and peace of mind, so stay tuned for signs. For Virgo, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 6th house of daily routine, work, service, healthcare, and pets. So you might be letting go of a lifestyle that no longer serves you, or maybe a job, probably in the service industry or in the healthcare industry, and some of you might be letting go of a pet, unfortunately. But whatever your situation is, this is expanding your spirituality, and with Mercury about to turn direct, stay tuned for messages from the beyond. And there's a trine connecting your mission in this world with a new routine that supports that mission. And at the apex, the driving force is trust and intimacy and share resources. And this can be money from your spouse or a business partner or inheritance or even loans. But at the tail end is Mars, offering resistance in your 2nd house of values, where you might be hesitating about your self-worth or even the way you make money. But the Jupiter-Venus conjunction is in your house of groups and associations, basically your community, which is bringing love and abundance to you, maybe through networking. And for Libra, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 5th house of creativity, recreation, and procreation, but it supposes your group of belonging. So you're terminating or letting go of a project that was taking time away from your social life, or maybe a kid is going off to college, leaving your room for your friends, or maybe you're choosing your tribe over a lover, especially with Mercury about to station direct, where you're learning how to express yourself from your heart and you find solace in your friends. And there's a trine that connects your house of creativity and fun with the house of expansion and belief system, and the driving force is your 7th house of partnerships, anywhere from significant others to business partners. So this is taking you higher. And at the tail end is Mars offering resistance in your 1st house of self, so there is some kind of hesitation on what action to take. But with Venus and Jupiter conjuncting in your 10th house of career and reputation, this is bringing good fortune and abundance associated with your mission in this world. And for Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this falls in your 4th house of home, roots, and real estate, and is opposed your 10th house of career and reputation. So you're letting go of a home or something at home with your family, which could be old patterns and dynamics or self-limiting beliefs from your upbringing that were holding you back from your mission in this world. And the kite is connecting your house of home with shared resources, and at the apex is your routine, health, and service, where your daily work and how you take care of yourself and others is the driving force to take things to a higher level. But there is some hesitation with Mars in your house of spirituality and mental health, where you might hesitate or not believe that you can do it. Yet, with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 9th house of expansion, this is bringing love and abundance to your belief system and all lofty activities, from teaching to higher education, publishing, and long-distance travel, and all things expansive. And with Mercury about to station direct in your 10th house of career, you're learning how to express yourself from your heart in a professional way that will benefit your reputation. And for Sag, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 3rd house of communication, peers, learning, and writing, and also rules daily commute or short distance travel. But it supposes your 9th house of expansion, belief systems, and all lofty activities like teaching, publishing, traveling abroad, and foreign matters. So you're letting go of playing it small in order to play it big. And the kite is connecting the communication sector with the house of significant others and partnerships in general. And at the apex, the driving force is your creativity and doing the things you love. So there is some resistance with Mars hesitating in your house of groups and acquaintances, where you might feel like in a tug of war between pleasing yourself or pleasing others. But with Mercury about to station direct in your 9th house of expansion, you're able to convey the right message to take your creative projects to the next level. And with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your 8th house of trust, intimacy, and shared resources, there is love of abundance coming from a partner, mainly personal, but it could also be professional. And for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 2nd house of values, income, and self-worth, but is opposed to your house of investments, other people's money, shared resources, trust, and intimacy. So you're either letting go of a self-limiting belief that doesn't support the way you want to invest your money or share resources with another, or maybe you think you're not making enough to make a difference, but never underestimate the power of compound interest. Or maybe you had some trust or intimacy issues rooted in self-limiting beliefs that you're finally overcoming. And the kite is connecting this transformation in your house of values and self-worth with the house of daily routine and the service you provide in the world. And at the driving force is the home life and the wholesomeness that you find in family life. But there is some resistance, and Mars is hesitating in the professional sector, feeling in a tug of war between work-life balance. So it's about how you properly allocate time to each activity. Now, with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in the house of partnerships, your significant other is bringing love and abundance to your life, and with Mercury about to station direct in your 8th house of intimacy and trust and shared resources, you're able to communicate deep matters truthfully from your heart that support and strengthen your bonds. For Aquarius, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 1st house of self, so this is all about you and your identity, your image, and the way you want to come across. But is suppose your 7th house of others, anywhere from significant others to business partnerships. So there is a conflict between your ego and the relationships that you want to establish, and you're choosing to let go of all attitudes that they don't support the way you want to relate. And the kite is connecting your house of self with the house of joy and creativity, and at the apex, the driving force is the way you communicate with peers. And with Mercury about to station direct in your house of others, you're learning how to express yourself from your heart in a way that benefits relationships and contracts alike. But there is some resistance from Mars in the house of expansion, hesitating about your belief system and your capability to expand. Yet with Venus and Jupiter conjunction in your house of daily routine, health, work, service, and pets, this is bringing abundance through daily work and actions and activities that supports a healthy lifestyle and the service you provide in the world. And alternatively, a service pet or just a pet can bring a lot of love and joy in your daily life, which will have ripple effects into the rest of your life. And finally, for Pisces, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this full moon falls in your 12th house of spirituality, mental health, rest, institutions, and loss, and is opposed your house of daily routine, work, service, health, and pets. So you're letting go of an all self-limiting belief or an addiction or some kind of codependency that comes from a self-limiting belief, or you're losing something or someone that is bringing attention to your house of health and daily routine in order to establish a healthy lifestyle. And with Mercury about stationing direct in this area, it's also about expressing yourself from your heart on a daily basis, even at work, for your own well-being. And the kite is connecting this transformation in your house of spirituality and mental health with a house of home and roots and family, and at the apex, the house of values and self-worth, driving the energy of upgrade. So you're thinking better about yourself and daring to make the changes necessary. So there's a new sense of self-worth, which could also reflect in the way you make money, and that positions differently in life. But the hesitation comes with Mars in the house of trust, intimacy, and shared resources, where you might feel some trepidation to trust another, especially with your money. Yet, with the Venus-Jupiter conjunction in your house of joy and creativity, romance, and children, there is love and abundance stemming from following your bliss, your creative pursuits, and coming from your offspring. So this one was a longie, but there was a lot to cover. And finally, where I can help you the most is with a private reading or with my new book, that is a book about you, which is basically a reading but in print. Here will go your name, your natal chart, the table of contents, an introduction, my bio, your natal chart, 10 pages with all information about you that is worth it for a lifetime, your numerology, then your lunar progressions, that is like a chapter in your life, and then we have horoscope, 1 month per page and 1 week per paragraph, and this is worth it for a long year. And then you have other offers of my readings, my contact information, website, and social media. And that's it, folks. Contact me for your copy. And if you want a book for you, Please allow for a month production between writing the book, sending it to print, and delivery. And I accept payment through PayPal to friends of family and Zelle. And all the information is in astrologybyvirginia.com. And please send me your full name as you use today, your date of birth with place of birth, and if you have time of birth too, and delivery address. And with that, I will leave you for now. It takes me a while to make these videos and just a sec to like, and it makes a world of a difference. So please, please, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. Thank you for your time, and remember, I will never reach out to you, so be aware of scammers. See you in the next one. Namaste.